Well, it was all Linden's idea, really. At that point, it was all about the money. The old ODM, it's kind of like a band of brothers, you know. It was about love and caring for people. But afterwards, the tour, you know, it soon became clear that it was greed. It was all greed.
As the band became a major success, Jack booked them on a massive world tour. Things went well at first, until one member of the band began to grate on people's nerves.
Now, if we're talking about people I don't like, Leo Harvey.
Why did you hate Leo Harvey?
Oh, Leo Harvey. Every morning I'd wake up when I was on tour with ODM. It was awful. He just kept shaving my moustache off, and no wonder he had no friends. He was doomed. Oh, bad behaviour. Yeah. It took me a couple of days to grow it back again, but I'd get it back and he would shave it right off again.
I think it's those trousers. Black and...
Obviously it doesn't matter if you're black or white.
It does!
Leo Harvey had herpes, and no one likes herpes.
Well, it depends what you mean by everyone. There have been some who've stood by me throughout the years, but there are some who've just hated me from the beginning, really. And I think to a certain extent, it was the herpes. But I did also have gonorrhea, but people didn't seem to think that was so much of an issue.
Leo became annoying so rapidly, the band was soon unable to contain their hatred on stage.
I don't really want to go into it. I mean, I saw them probably 3 or 4 times, and every time they made him undress and, you know, sit down, and it wasn't pleasant. I mean, obviously I used to know him and everything before he got big and famous, and it wasn't. That stuff wasn't meant to happen on stage. You're not meant to. It was torture.
Clearly things could not go on like this. Knowing that something had to be done, Jack decided to intervene.
Why did you find it necessary to try and get him fired?
Well, I mean, do you know how long it takes to get looking like this? I'm talking about the moustache, not the face, because the face is great too. I mean, wait, do you want to film? Do you want to film these?
Okay.
Do you want to get them up close? Wait, just so that. Because I mean, can you feel that?
Wow. Yes.
Feel the tries, got one.
That's good.
I mean, it's great. I mean, yeah, Leo Harvey, cool. I mean, it's your first impression is that he's a great man, but once you get to know him, something definitely not right there. I mean, why did anyone behave the way they did? I think it's because he can't grow a moustache. He couldn't grow one. He's bitter. He's cruel. He's bitter. Carry on.
Linden's bread addiction had been a problem throughout the tour, but things came to a climax during the Latin American leg, when Linden OD'd on rich, oily bread and was unable to play the show in Sao Paulo.
Well, I think we all saw the news reports about Ethiopia back in those days, and the grain crisis. And I think most of us assumed it was because of the lack of rain, or because they were lazy. But it did transpire that it was because Linden was using his old contacts from prison to buy up all the grain to make focaccia.
Needless to say, the band never played again, and many of the members slid into obscurity.
What have you been doing since the world tour?
Linz.
When the world tour ended, Linden was left stranded in South America, where he proceeded to pass the time by massacring the Aztecs.
I didn't see any need for him to wage war on them. It was a personal war, personal vendetta that just escalated.
I think we all saw the darker side of Linden at some point or another. During the early years we tried to push it to the back of our minds, but it was always there. It was always there. Later on though, it did spiral out of control. I mean, there's a whole Aztec incident. That was just pretty horrific, really. So you should probably be asking an Aztec.
I won't.
Yeah, they're all dead.
We tried to find an Aztec to interview, but they were all dead. So here's a Spanish farmer.
Where were you during the Aztec defeat?
Well, I suppose I must have been somewhere near where Mexico City would have been, although it was of course something different at the time. Something which I can't remember, I'm afraid.
Linden used his reputation among the Aztecs to trick them into defeat.
I think some of them revere him as a sun god of sorts.
You know, they fell for the age-old trick of he traded them, you know, arms for rice and that, and then they just, you know, the arms just broke and they had no rice.
Many people marvelled on how clean Aztec land was after the massacre. However, this was not the whole story.
Well, what did you do with all the bodies?
Well, most people just chucked them in the river, to be honest. Why?
It was at this time that Linden became reacquainted with his old half-Aztec friend, Quentin, who never seemed to bear Linden any ill will for the vicious killings.
You can't stay angry at Linden for his little flights of fancy. One day Linden got it into his head to run down to the corner shop and buy 8 cornettos with a £50 note. These are the sort of things he did. One day he might be doing that, the next day he might be wiping out the Aztec race. And it's things you just can't really begrudge him. You've just got to, you know, you indulge his flights of fancy. I lost a few family members, a few friends, but you know, I mean, what was that? He was a young man, and he was a bit hot-headed, a bit rash and impetuous, you might say, but he had a good time doing it. And that's what's important about life, is that if you have a good time with anything you're doing.
Thankfully, Linden and Quentin put aside their differences, as we might have never experienced the earth-shattering musical renaissance known only as electro brass.
I'd say it was like a bleak, icy tundra. You get like one tree would come up every now and then, but then the tree would just die, and loggers would take it away and it would be a table. And then you might get another tree, and they wouldn't make that into a table because they didn't need any more tables. The other one, they still had that. But then electro brass came along and you just had tables like nobody's business. You had chairs, the previously mentioned tables. You get other things made of wood. Electro brass is the music of the future. Electro brass. Now, essentially, we took our lead from Roy Wood, who had the revolutionary idea of blending rock and roll music with classical instrumentation and formed the legendary band the Electric Light Orchestra. This was something we wanted to achieve as well by blending electro music with classical brass instrumentation, such as trombones and brass. So what we're looking for is, we're looking for that sort of blend of the cerebral musicality of the two different genres, and it was something that went down with the fans very well.